Good morning, cuties. Sorry I'm here a little late. Decided to exercise this morning, which is why I'm tomato red, but go me, right? It's been a while since I've exercised, so I was pretty proud of myself for getting up this morning and doing that. I started back at my roots with 21 Day Fix, which I used to be like obsessed with home workouts. I did those back in high school, started with the Firm, and then once I hit like college, I think, when was that? Oh no, it was right after I got married. I decided to start doing 21 Day Fix, and I really liked it, so I always go back to that when I feel like I need to kind of start over, and I definitely needed to start over because I'm very out of shape. So, good morning. I hope you all are feeling good and you had a good weekend. Sorry, I'm just putting in some notes here. Hi, sweetie. Oh, she does want to make an appearance. Hello. This is Prada. She's my sweet baby. Can you say hello? Oh, thank you, thank you. Then you want to say hello? This is my tiny little girl. She's so small. Thanks, baby. Nell, are you too? And this is Nell. Chanel for long. Say hi, baby. She got an at-home haircut during quarantine, so she looks a little funny, but yeah. Tell me all how your weekend was. And today, I figured we'd chat just for a little bit while I get ready. So, I did take a shower. My face is just still red because it's still hot. So, let's get started. It is clean though, I did wash it. So we'll start out with the Milk Hydro Grip Primer. Like I said last time, this is the only primer I've ever used that I actually enjoy and that I feel like does something. I've used primers. I've used so many primers before, and I just felt like it was kind of a waste of money, but I really like this Hydro Primer. I feel like it actually like makes my makeup look better. So we'll start with that, and then I use a little bit of the Ordinary Caffeine Solution just around my eyes. Get rid of any puffiness going on there. So I got up early this morning. Chris had to get up early for work, so I figured I'd get up and exercise, which was good of me. It's been a while. That's something that I've been not too good at this time around, really. I've been trying to lose some weight. Talked about this last time, but ever since I started taking my antidepressants, I gained about 30 pounds, which is fine. And that's just, I mean, that wasn't where my priority was. So that is just what happens, and that's okay. My priority was definitely on my mental health and trying to get well. So the weight gain just kind of came with it. And now that I've kind of got my mental health under control, for the most part, I have been trying to get my physical health back under control. So I'm taking this Becca under eye brightening corrector. Just going underneath my eyes. I just realized I'm using this camera as a mirror instead of using an actual mirror as a mirror. That's better. Anyway, so yeah, now that I've got my mental health somewhat under control, I've been trying to take more care of my physical body. And I hired my macro coach again. She's the best. Her name's Ashley. You can find her at grithealth.com. I tell everybody about her. They're like, okay, really, like, I get it. I'm like, no, you don't understand. So I love her. She's one of those coaches that, like, I don't know, she just makes you feel really good about yourself, but like also makes you want to be better. It's a very unique personality trait, and I get along really well with those people. So I'm happy to be working with her again. I hired her again back in like, it was probably end of January or beginning of February. So basically, for those of you that don't know, macronutrients, that's everything that your food is made up of. So everything you eat has a certain number of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in them. And you are basically allotted a number of each of those 3 macronutrients. So right now I'm on 155 grams of carbs per day, 126 grams of protein, I think. It's either 126 or 128. And then 48 grams of fat. So every day I am allotted that many, and it's just kind of like a budget. So every time you eat something, that amount of money gets, or that amount of macronutrient, whichever one it is, gets taken out of your budget. So she assigns those numbers, and then you check in with her weekly with a weigh-in and progress photos every once in a while, and she'll adjust your macronutrients based on what she thinks you need. So I started at 163 pounds with her earlier this year, and as of my last weigh-in, I was at 151, so we're getting there. And really that last big drop has come just in the last month. So if you have been working on losing weight, keep at it, because sometimes those results just take a while. So anyway, yeah, so that's where I'm at. So I've been pretty good about my nutrition, but exercise has been something that I've struggled with this time around, which is funny because it used to be the opposite. Like, I really kind of struggled with the nutrition, and like I hit my macros, but they definitely weren't like nutrient dense foods or anything. I don't know if I'm liking this foundation right now. I might go over it with something else. That was the Makeup Revolution Stick Foundation, Fast Base Stick Foundation in F2. But I think I'm gonna go over it with some Milani Conceal and Perfect. So yeah, that's where things have been. So I've been trying to get back into exercising. It's just kind of a chore, and like, I used to wake up at 4:30 every single day and go to the gym. That was like my routine, that was my thing. And now I can't be bothered to get up like before 8 o'clock, but I'm trying to get better. And yeah, so anyway, that's that on the physical health base. And I thought today maybe we would talk a little bit more about mental health, because that's like my favorite thing to talk about. You guys know that. So I wanted to go over 3 things like I'm like glowing today, and not in a good way. I'm glowing in a bad way. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what I want. Okay, concealer. This is the NYX Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Dog hair everywhere, all the time. Gross. Dogs. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to talk about mental health and 3 things that have helped me get through the worst time in my life. So as you probably know, unless you've never gone on Facebook and we've never met in person, hey, can you stop fighting please for like 5 seconds? Yeah, go fight somewhere else. Thank you. I love them. Anyway, about 1.5 years ago, I went through like a really bad bout of depression, and excuse me. Hey, go fight somewhere else. Go, go, go. They're just staring at me like, what are you talking about? Anyway, so yeah, I've had chronic depression since I was a teenager. Just never really put like a name to it. But I went through a really horrible bout last year or the year before. And yeah, so I basically couldn't function. It got to the point where it was pretty debilitating. So the top 3 things I would say that helped me out of that is 1, getting professional help. And professional help is something that I would recommend to anybody going through a hard time, whether or not you have a mental illness. If you're just struggling, let's say you're going through a really stressful situation, like let's say you're going through a divorce, or you're in school and you can't seem to manage your time without being totally stressed out or something of the sort. Professional help is always there, and it's not just for people that are like schizophrenic or in psychosis or stuff like that. Like counseling can be for anybody, and highly encouraged. So when I was going through this bout, I remember thinking that I really needed to go get help. And like in the past, I had like pulled myself through it, and I was able to kind of get through it, never really fully healing, but you know, pushing past. But I remember this time thinking, if I don't get help, I'm not going to make it. Like, this is too much for me to handle on my own. And no amount of help that I received from my husband or my family, no matter how good their intentions were, was going to help me. Ooh, my skin is fighting me today. This is not fun. Anyway, so I was really nervous, and I think that there's a lot of stigma around going to get help, and I have seen so many people that are trying to break that stigma, which I love. I think that that's something that's so important, and that's why I advocate that counseling's for anybody that's struggling with anything. It's not just for mental illness. So if you need help with anything, go to counseling and they can help you out. So I was really nervous, and I remember doing a ton of research beforehand, and if you know me, that's likely. I like to make sure I have all of the information about something before I just make a decision. So I did lots of research, and the only counseling center that I could find that didn't have poor Google reviews was one in Rexburg, and I'm trying to remember the name and I can't. But anyway, they focus on like holistic health, and so I was like, okay. And like the reason that I went to a counselor first instead of a doctor is because I didn't want to automatically just be given a medication. Like I wanted to see what a counselor or mental health professional had to say before just automatically giving me something for it, if that makes sense. So I wasn't against medication by any means. I wasn't against going to the doctor. I just wanted to get that opinion first from a counselor. So I went to this counselor in Rexburg. Her name was Terry. She was fantastic. She was an older lady. She was working on her PhD. And something I actually really loved about her was that she's Gottman certified, which if you guys know me, you know that John Gottman's like my idol. I love him. He's the author of Raising an Emotionally Intelligent Child and a bunch of other marriage and family books that I've read almost every single one of. I still have a couple more that are in my Audible library that I need to get through. But anyway, so she was certified by the Gottman Institute, which I loved. That was just something that was kind of a bonus to me. So I remember making my way up to Rexburg. Well, let's start before that. I had called, and something that I was like really concerned about was the cost. Like I needed to know how much I was about to pay for counseling, because I heard that it was like really expensive, and like looking back on it now, it's like I would have paid you $1 million to get out of the way that I was feeling back then. So I don't know why cost was such a concern to me at the time, but it was. So I called and I said, hi, how much are your counseling sessions? And she was like, $100. I was like, okay, great, bye. Like, I didn't make an appointment. I didn't, you know, talk more about it to her. I just immediately texted my husband. I was like, hey, counseling's $100. Like, should I go? I don't know why I was like so nervous about it, but anyway, I was. And he was like, obviously you should go. Like, don't be stupid. He didn't say that because he's too nice, but that's what I heard. So I, oh, this is the L'Oreal. I just realized I haven't been telling you what I'm putting on my face, but I'll put it somewhere in the post, I think. This is the L'Oreal Lumi Bronze It. This is the second time I'm trying this. So we'll see how it goes. The first time, I think I was just messing around with it, so I didn't really pay attention to what it was doing. But anyway, so I went to counseling. Loved this lady. Terry was great. She taught me a lot about myself, and she was like asking me some questions, you know, like the norm, like what, you know, basically diagnostic questions, like what do you feel like? And she asked me kind of about like my situation, like how is work and how's my marriage, and they ask like, when's the last time you remember being like really, really happy? And that's a diagnostic question to see if you are actually bipolar, if you have bipolar disorder rather than just depression. And so anyway, I was like 17 years ago. And so she was like, okay, like you definitely need to be put on medication, which is fine. And she was like, I can't prescribe that. And so that was good for me to like hear from somebody else that like couldn't gain anything, I guess, from prescribing medication, telling me that. So I felt more confident in actually going to the doctor and being like, look, this is what my counselor said, rather than just going to the doctor and being like, I'm depressed, I need medication. Anyway, so she was the bomb. She taught me a lot about how depression manifests itself physically. and that was really interesting. She taught me how it actually is like about your brain and how a depressed brain works, and how if you don't get help, or you know, if you don't get counseling, if you don't get the proper medication, if you don't take the right steps, your depression can worsen over time, obviously, and like physically worsen. Like your neurons, the number of neurons in your brain gets smaller and smaller so that your synapses can't make those connections as quickly, and that just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And so anyway, so that was really eye-opening to me, and it was good for me to see like a physical example of what that looks like, because when you're in it and you're feeling it, it's like, I am crazy. I, you know, can't control myself. It was things like that, and to see it like physically manifested, and then for her to tell me, I know exactly what to do and you are going to feel better, was a huge thing for me. So I am super grateful for that. So she was awesome. And ooh, I have a comment here, one second. Oh, sorry everybody. Chanel. Thanks, baby. Thank you. This is the Juvia's Place blush palette. Anyway, so step one, get professional help. Like, I'm sorry if that's not what you wanted to hear, but that is what you need to hear. So if you're in a place like that and you can't seem to dig yourself out, professional help will help you. That's what they're there for. And if you don't like your counselor, go see another one. Like, and that's what they're there for. And they'll even tell you, she even told me up front, like, look, if you and I don't get along and you don't like me after this session, then go see somebody else. I want you to get the help that you need, even if it's not with me. And so I really appreciated that about her. And honestly, I've only ever been to 2 counseling sessions. Soon after my second one, we moved to Nampa. And at that time, the medication that I had been on started working really well. And I didn't feel like I needed counseling as much as I did, though I probably should. Sorry, I'm looking for one of my brushes. Though I probably should continue to go. So that is something that I will continue to do in the future. So if you're curious, one of the costs associated with counseling, at least at that particular place, was $100. So, and that was out of pocket. I don't have any insurance, and most insurances don't cover a lot of mental health stuff anyway, which is another bone I can pick with somebody else at another time. But anyway, so yeah, that would be my first tip. Second tip would be, don't be afraid of medication. It's there for a reason, and I think that that physical explanation that Terry had given me really helped me understand that. Like, your medication will help make those connections quicker. It'll help your brain chemistry so that you can use. Basically, it's all a complicated process, but it's called a reuptake inhibitor. So your neurons go through this process, and the medication basically allows you to, I don't know, it allows you to do something, allows your neurons to kind of regenerate or something like that. Anyway, it helps. So don't be afraid of medication, but do take caution because it will take time. So I went through 3 medications before I found the one that I'm on, and this one has made me feel like myself again. which is fantastic. Sorry, I don't know what I'm looking for. Oh, yes, I do. My palette's over here. Anyway, so that's my second tip, is don't be afraid of medication. And my third tip kind of goes hand in hand with that. I would say be patient with yourself, with others. This is difficult, I will tell you, because you want to be better right away. And especially you've gotten to the point where you've been brave enough to get help, and it's so frustrating to not see things pay off right away. It's frustrating. And the first medication that I was put on was Prozac, and it was fine. It wasn't horrible. It did make me feel better, but after a while I just became so tired. I like couldn't handle it, to the point where I was sleeping like 14-15 hours a day. Like I literally would go to work, I would roll out of bed at 8 o'clock. I wouldn't even bother putting on makeup. I'd throw my hair up, go to work, get my crap done, come home and eat dinner and go to bed. Like it was so bad that I was sleeping all the time. And so I called the doctor and I was like, hey, like this is what's going on. And she's like, okay, well, we'll switch you to Lexapro. And I was like, all right. And so because they were in the same class of drugs, I didn't have to like wean off one and wean on the other. It just was, I could just switch them really quickly. Not really quickly, but I could switch. Like I could take Prozac, finish taking it one day, and then start Lexapro the next day. Lexapro and I do not get along, which is funny because I know it works for so many people. And that's the other thing, is like when you're trying to look for a medication that works, no two are going to behave the same in different people. So like what works for one person may or may not work for you. So I was on Lexapro for about 3 weeks before I was like, I cannot handle this anymore. And I know that they say wait about a month before making any decisions, but like I was so irritable that if somebody was like tapping their finger or something, I thought I was gonna explode. Like it made me so anxious and just like on my toes all the time, and I hated it. I hated that feeling. And so I called the doctor and I was like, look, you better take me off this right now. Like I was so angry. And I remember the nurse that took my call was like, okay, like I'll give her the message. And then he was like, hang in there, kiddo. I was like, well, I'm not gonna like kill myself right now. Like I'm not suicidal or anything. Like I can hang in there. I just switch me. Like I was so angry. And so she called me back that same day and was like, hey, we're gonna switch you to Effexor. And I was like, oh crap, because I had read so many reviews online about Effexor, which is another thing that you shouldn't do. Don't read online reviews about medication. And Effexor was one of the ones that like people reacted really poorly to. A lot of people said that like it didn't work for them, or it like made their symptoms way worse. And I was like, ooh, I don't know about this. And anyway, she was like, it's a different class of drugs. So they have the SSRIs, which are the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And then they have the SNRIs, which are the selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong. Anyway, so one deals specifically with serotonin in your brain and one deals with norepinephrine. And so she was like, we'll have to wean you onto this one. So basically I had to stop taking Lexapro, which was fine. And then I had to be weaned onto Effexor. So she said that I had to take a half dose for, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 weeks. and then I would take the full dose continuing on. And honestly, like, it's been the best thing that's happened to me. It does take a long time. Like, I will say it took probably a good 6 months for me to even start feeling sort of better. Like, it was working, and I could tell that it was working about a month after, because I was like no longer like crying all the time, and like I wasn't having like outbursts or anything. But I was still kind of tired, a little bit apathetic, like just depressed. And it's just that my symptoms were lessening. And so I was like, okay, like I think that this is working. And it wasn't until a good 6 months later that I was like, okay, like this is working, like I feel better. So you do have to be patient. And I know these tips like are really prolonged. It's not just like a quick thing, but sorry about it. That was the Jaclyn Hill palette. The first one. Okay, anyway, so yeah, I would say be patient and don't be afraid of medications. Those are my other 2 tips. Because yeah, and don't read online reviews goes with that, because some people will say some really horrible things like, I hate Lexapro, I hate it. It was horrible to me, and a lot of people like it, so that's fine. Anyway, carrying on, I would say another tip is to stop doing things that make you feel bad about yourself. So one thing that I was doing that I had to stop doing was reading books, like self-help books. I got so tired of listening to people telling me that I'm not doing enough and that I could be doing better and blah, 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 blah. Like, and don't get me wrong, like self-help books were like my thing. Like I listened to them for like 3 years straight before finally I was listening one day and I was like, this needs to stop. Like I can't keep listening to these people telling me like what I need to do with my life and how I'm not doing a good enough job and whatever. And so I just stopped listening to self-help books pretty much altogether. And that made a huge difference. So stop doing things that make you feel bad about yourself. Like if you, I don't know, if you hang around people that make you feel crappy, stop hanging out with them. Like this goes for anybody that even doesn't have a mental illness. Like stay away from the things that make you feel like a piece of crap. It's that simple. Yeah. I was listening to a lot of like Grant Cardone and Rachel Hollis, and those are the last people that you want to listen to. Some good ones I think that you can listen to are like Jen Sincero. That was one of those self-help books that like already makes you feel like you're a super person. And then like what you can do with your super person powers. That doesn't make any sense. I can't do eyeliner and talk at the same time, I'm sorry. Should we go for a wing today? Sure. Hey, sweetie. Oh, don't lick me while I'm doing the wing. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. That's very nice. All right, one down. So yeah, and then what are some other things that I would recommend? Remember that your number one priority always is to yourself. Because if you're a wife or a mom or a husband or a dad or anything like that, you can't help the people around you unless you are alive and healthy. So remember that your number one priority is always to yourself. It's not to your kids. I'm sorry. It's not to your pets. It's not to your husband or wife. It's not to the people that are watching you on YouTube. It's not to your mom or your dad. If you don't feel well, your number one priority is yourself. You need to get well so that you can be a good mom and that you can be a good wife, that you can be a good husband or father or daughter or aunt. I think that that's kind of taboo to think like, well, I can't be number one priority because then like I'll be a bad mom. No, you won't. You'll be a good mom. Like I promise. If you take care of yourself, you'll be a good mom. And that's not in a selfish way. That's not saying that you need to like go out and spend a bunch of money on yourself because you're number one. Like that's saying like you need to get the help that you need in order to take care of the people that rely on you. So don't forego treatment or anything of the sort because you feel like you need to take care of others before yourself, because that's just not true. Not when you're not feeling good. Oh, she's thick. Okay. This eyeliner pen is like on its last leg here. Well, that didn't go as planned, but you know what? We're leaving it there. Yeah, I would say those are my tips. I think that that's about it. And then when you're through it and on the other side, because you will get through it, you can look back and say, wow, I'm really grateful for that experience because it's taught me so much. Because I feel like that's kind of where I'm at now. It definitely was a blessing to have to go through that, and it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. And I know that a lot of you that are watching this will say the same thing, whether you're going through it right now or you've been through it or you have a loved one that's going through it. You know that it's not an easy thing to deal with. And it's just as debilitating as physical illness. And sometimes it just sucks, but you'll get through it. And I had to say a lot of prayers. And a lot of those prayers were just me being a brat and saying things like, you need to take me off this earth right now because I'm tired of this. But Heavenly Father knows what's in store, and He knows what's coming next. I don't know what's coming next, but He does. So I have faith that He'll help me through whatever I need to. And at the time I had faith that if He didn't need me here on this earth anymore, He would take me. And apparently there's something I still have left to do here because I'm still here. So, yeah, just remember that you're important. You're important to me. You're important to your Heavenly Father. He loves you. I would also like to know what tips you have and what's gotten you through the hard times. One thing I will say that I know is a little controversial is that I really hate when people say that you can get over depression by diet and exercise. Because, and I know you guys have heard me say this before, probably like 10 times already, but I was in the best shape that I had ever been in my entire life. I was eating well-ish for the most part. I was everything in moderation, right? And that's kind of what I was trying to live by. And then I was exercising every single day. And I still went through the hardest bout of depression that I had ever experienced. Do I think that diet and exercise are important? Absolutely. They need to be done. That's how we take care of our bodies. But you're not going to get over chronic depression through diet and exercise. I'm sorry, you're just not. Can you get over a depressive episode if you don't have chronic mental illness? Yes. But that's just the thing. There's a difference between major depressive disorder and having a depressive episode. And everybody will experience depression at one point in their lives. Like, I would think that that's safe to say, is there will be a time in your life where you feel depressed, and that's normal. It's normal for you to feel feelings. But one depressive episode does not equal chronic depression. So, for those of you that have gotten over a depressive episode that don't have major depressive disorder, don't tell somebody with chronic depression that they need to diet and exercise more. So I'll probably kick you in the shin. I probably actually won't, but I don't think I've ever kicked anybody in the shin, to be honest. But I'll probably frown at you. Say that's not very nice. But yeah. This is, how did that happen? I just got a bunch of like mascara on my nail. This is the Telescopic L'Oreal mascara. I like it because it has an itty bitty tiny wand. I don't like the big old fat wands because I feel like I just stab myself in the eye, and that's not fun. It's on its way. I ordered from Sephora. So this is the Velour lash glue, but they have a liner that doubles as lash glue. So you basically just put it on like you would an eyeliner, and then you can just stick your lashes to it. At first, when I heard about it, I was like, that seems kind of hokey. But it had really good reviews, so I ordered it. So I'll let you know once I get it. But yeah, so I would love to hear what some of your mental health tips are. For those that are watching this and feel like they need some mental health tips, share with the class, please. These lashes are foaming lashes from Amazon. Eyelash tips. So you'll see that I only put mascara on one eye, and that's so that it doesn't have enough time to dry down, so that I can squeeze my natural lashes to the fake ones and help them blend a little bit better. And you'll see that like this is like really kind of floppy, and you want a lash band that's like that. You want something that's a little bit floppy and soft. Like you don't want something that's really firm, because the soft one will make it a lot easier to stick it onto your eyelashes. So I know I've talked about this before, but if you have like a lash band that's like really stiff, then it'll be very difficult to apply unless your eyeball is exactly the same shape as that lash, which chances of that are like 1 in a million. So I like these ones that have the thinner, floppier bands because it helps to apply them a lot easier. Some other lash tips. I know that people ask me all the time, like how I get these on. And sorry, I apparently can't talk and do this at the same time. You want a good lash glue as well. I really like this Velour one, and I've tried pretty much every lash glue on the planet. Don't use the ones that come in the tiny little tube that come with your lashes, because chances are it's not going to work out for you. I also like the dark lash glue if I'm using liner like I am today. It just helps it blend a lot better. And then I just put the lash glue straight onto the band, as you'll see me doing here. And I make sure that the ends have plenty on there so they stick. And then you just wait a second for those to get a little tacky. I just realized I forgot to put mascara on this eye, so that's what we're gonna do while we're waiting for this to get tacky. And you don't have to wait too long. My dog is snoozing right under my desk. She just looked at me like, no, I'm not. I heard it. I used to hate these. I thought that they didn't do anything, but I really like them now. I don't know if you can hear that, but she's totally making snoozy noises. these Facebook Lives really need to give me a time. Like, what time is it? All right. I think I'm just gonna throw on a gloss and call it good for today. That was a little bit more pigmented than I wanted. Oh, still need to do my bottom lashes. Right. I think we'll call that good. I'm gonna go do something with this mop and get dressed for work. And I'll see you guys later. Thanks for getting ready with me.